Hi, my name's Lindy and welcome to my channel. I hope you are keeping and doing as well as you possibly can in these times of unique, global and unique, let's say, individual change and transformation. We are only at the beginnings of these changes and transformations. There's a lot more to come yet. So pace yourself, try and keep walking yourself back to the present moment and look after yourselves at this unique period of time and history. So if you're new to this channel, hello, and if you have been with me some time over the last nearly 7 years on this channel, hello again. The first thing I'm going to say is I have a new website. This website is long overdue, but I am delighted with the results. So you will not find me on my old website any longer, and if you click on that link it will give you a redirect to my new one. And my new website, I'm having to glance down because I haven't learned it off by heart yet. My new website is raisingreality.com. raisingreality.com, and the email to contact me for sessions, media or other is lindy@raisingreality.com. One more time, the new website is raisingreality.com and the email lindy@raisingreality.com. If you accidentally go to the old website, which I've referenced in the last 325 videos, it will redirect you to the new one. So the website really reflects these times of change and transformation and me really wanting to expand things and open up things, go up a gear if you like, and reflect, let's say, the nature and the extent of the work I'm doing and what I'm offering. Now, before I go any further, I think what I'm going to get into now, as you know, this is a very honest, open, let's say, experiential channel where I'm sharing things. I think what I'm going to do is kind of talk. It's only going to be a short video because mainly it's to announce the website, but I'm going to talk about the kind of more challenging symptoms that one can have as part of their ascension process. So not many people talk about the fact that when one's carbon body is upgrading to crystalline and coming into a plasma quantum state of being, that can be quite a physically painful process, as well as a mentally painful process, as well as a spiritually painful process. And not many people reference this. And the ones that do have usually been on this journey for a number of years and have passed through that part of it. So in my own background, for various reasons, I don't feel all of them ascension related, but some of them are. I've had a lot of, I'm going to say, physical pain and suffering. Now, not all of that has been connected to ascension, and there's been various reasons for that, which I won't go into now. Some of them are quite personal. But some of those have definitely been ascension related. And what happens is, as energy, as we are kind of electrical circuitry as well as consciousness and as well as spiritual soul essence beings, as we are going through various parts of our energy firing up into a different way, running higher levels of energy, let's say templating, let's say again for the collective, like I referred to in previous videos, when you're running that energy through you, it can come up against blocks, shall we say, within your energy field, but not just blocks. As your energy field begins to change, let's say the requirements that you have for your input to get your maximum output change. So that's in terms of environment that you're living in, foods that perhaps you should be eating, drinks that you should be drinking, mindset, state of emotion. And the more sensitive and the more light quota you hold, the more difficult it is, the more intense it is when you come up against anything within your own field that is not of that. And if you're a sensitive, intuitive empath that also picks up on the collective stuff as well, which I do, that hits you even harder, because it only needs about 20% of your own consciousness or circuitry to, instead of run the mass collective stuff through you, you can grab hold of it and take it on. Now, I'm going to give you some really plain examples of this to understand what I'm coming from here. There is this huge misconception, it's a real bone of contention for me that I keep coming back to, that people going through spiritual awakenings and raising of consciousness, that we have, or there's this expectation that we really should have all our shit together. So what I mean by that is that there is this expectation, and people put you on a pedestal in thinking that we're almost superhuman or are not allowed to be human, and that we're not having challenges like everybody else. And really the reverse is true. Often people in an ascension process, but in a capacity where they are going through an upgrade process of their own human vehicle to embody more of the consciousness they are, often the more light quota they're holding or processing for the collective, the more stuff keeps coming at them, and the more stuff they have to deal with, often beyond the level of what, let's say, the normal individual has to deal with. So for example, in what I'm talking about now, what I've just had to deal with in the last few weeks, I'm not going to go into loads of details here because some of them are personal, but I'm having to deal with what I would call multiple health related issues, some of which I've had long term for at least 16 years, some, let's say, new ones, and some excruciatingly debilitating, really debilitating, physically debilitating. So they obviously have an impact on one's quality of sleep and quality of life, and some of them are being resolved quicker than others, and others are slightly more complex. So when you're going through an ascension process, these little chinks and, let's say, deviations in the energy field or patterns in the energy field, you might have inherited them from your family, you might have got it into long-term emotional patterns with something, they come out, and you could have been compensating for them for a number of years, but when the pressure goes up on the light, when your light quota goes up, it becomes excruciatingly difficult to then compensate for it. So it's like having one arm and one leg tied behind your back. What I'm trying to say here is it gets far more painful. So what was manageable becomes excruciating. And I'm going to give you a few examples that I can give you here, because I don't want to go into personal details on what's going on with my health. Suffice to say that it's kind of been getting to a crisis stage. So I'm trying to balance the work that I do, which requires vast amounts of my energy and energy to run through me, with balancing with taking a few weeks off here and there so I can get some rest, and sort of changing some of the ways I do things so that I am working with energy that's not sometimes in such a draining for me capacity. So some of the things that have been going on this end, issues with the neighbours that I live next to. There's some things I can't say here on camera, in case it comes to, let's say, in case it goes to something legal, let's say. But suffice to say that I've got footballs being kicked at my windows, people in my garden all days of the hours of the night, the smell of narcotics wafting through the vents and the windows, noise, disruption, sometimes in the night, always during the day, particularly the evenings, fences being removed, boundaries being taken down. I'm constantly trying to reinforce that, constantly trying to reinforce it. Also dealing with the health things, and then also dealing with, like I say, vast quantities of people that I am helping who are processing some very significantly challenging things. Then I was talking to somebody the other day about the whole ritualistic thing that's going on, not in a good way, about the bend the knee thing. I could talk about that in great detail, but I'm not going to on this video. Needless to say, it's a bigger picture behind that and not what it seems. And I was saying to someone, you know, I won't be bending my knee, you know, for anyone. And then I couldn't bend my knee at all. Now I know it sounds mental, but I haven't been able to bend my knee for 2 weeks and I'm in agony. So I don't know if it's a bone thing, or I don't know if I've torn a ligament, or I don't know what it is, but I put it out there in energy and it's actually showed up in my field. And this is what I'm finding more and more and more and more. It's anything that I'm saying now is forming very quickly, and this is part of the ascension process. So somebody else I was working with, a couple of clients on the same day, that we were talking about how their actual individual unique timeline hasn't changed, and they are diverting around like a rock or a boulder that has been placed there, but it's not blocked them, but they're diverting around it. And while I was in session with them, a lorry pulled up with a crane on the back and unloaded a load of rocks, or what you would call boulders, and to another neighbour's house that was having them delivered, and they were plonked right in my path, so physically. So what I was talking about showed up physically, and in both examples what I was talking about showed up physically. So it's almost like we're really having to be really careful what we think, and we're really having to be careful what we say, because it's showing up in a dramatic way really fast, within minutes or hours or just a few days physically. Now, I really feel that this has always been the case, but as you come more into the energy of the heart and your creationary energy, because you can literally create your reality, you can accidentally almost create, by talking about something, what you wouldn't ideally have wanted to create. I mean, like my knee, I literally am on 2 walking sticks. If it, you know, literally like when you see someone come out of hospital and they've got those things they lean on, I'm on 2 walking sticks at the moment. It's excruciating and very tiring. And like I say, I've got other stuff going on as well, which I'm not going to go into now, some more serious than others. So we'll, you know, trying to get that sorted out. So it's really important at this period of time that we are mindful of the things that we are thinking, and mindful of the things we're saying. Now, we have to think it powerfully enough and say it powerfully enough for it to show up. So don't be paranoid about your own thoughts and think, oh, if I think this for one moment, it's become real. There has to be some momentum or some energy behind it. So in both these cases, there was momentum and energy behind it, because I felt very strongly about those things, and I was actually in like an energy like environment, session like environment, which has made it amplified and much more powerful, and actually formed them. So now I'm trying to unform them. That's the problem. So I'm trying to unform them, and of course it can be unformed, but it's always slightly more challenging to unform when you formed it. So it's like we're learning. We've got the keys to a car and we're learning how to drive here. That we are in extraordinary times, and what we say and think very strongly and powerfully, you know, does seem to have the potential to come up. I feel it comes up depending on the amount of, let's say, light and frequency and energy you hold within the heart. Is that creationary energy. So really what we want to be doing is creating in the more positive flow of energy charge, rather than creating what we don't want accidentally. I always look at it this way: if you're a master creator in one direction, you're a master creator in the other. And for me, you know, the way I look at my current circumstances, which are not comfortable in any sense of the word or ideal, because my living environment is being affected and, you know, my physical health is being affected. What I would say is it gives one a great opportunity to use the material one has got in order to create something out of it. It gives you, that's part of your walk in your mastery. You know, sometimes a lot of things come up. I mean, people walk in their mastery, they get a hell of a lot of stuff come up. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't have anything to master, so to speak. And for me, you know, there's this huge amount of material that I can work with to, let's say, transform. Often my knee-jerk response as a human being, not on the, when we're consciously aware, we don't do this, but as we're human, we often slip into these patterns, let's say almost unconsciously. So my knee-jerk response, as if I don't like something, is to kick and scream against it. In other words, to fight it, to resist it. And the worse it gets, the more I fight. And, you know, the older I've got, it's like you get into patterns with it. So the mastery here is to not just lay down and give up, but actually to stop fighting it in the same way, and to transform it almost by relaxing into it, and transform it by knowing that if one can create one way from strong emotion and strong feeling and strong energy, one can create the other. Now, for those of you going through stuff at the moment, and I know a lot of you are going through stuff at the moment, you may say to me that it's really hard to get to that space when you're already going through stuff. You know, when you're coming from a space of trying to get back up again when you've been knocked down, it's quite a bit more challenging to do that, because you're not on that, you already got a lot that you're pushing against, a lot of you, and you know, myself, has been happening to me as well. What I would say to you is, yeah, it gives you the bigger block of clay, bigger pile of shit to work with. The bigger the pile of shit, the bigger pile of clay, the more you can create something. But it's a question of almost, really, it starts with the mindset, changing your mindset towards it, and really knowing that you can navigate it another way around without fighting it. You can do it from another space. What I would say to you is, when I've had to work with people where I've been helping them to clear some extremely malevolent energies, I've seen more of that over the last few months than I've seen in my entire career. When you try to go to war against those beings, they almost kind of like it, really. You can have a show of strength, but it's a language they understand. Yet when you switch your light and love quota up so high that it's absolutely shockingly dazzling, that you can't even open your eyes in the face of the brightness of it, and beam so much intense light and compassion and love at them, it takes them out of the equation in a different way, in a totally different way, that's not really draining at all, because you're not coming from the emotional battling of it, you're coming from the spiritual consciousness, transformational alchemy of it. This is something that I find within the work I do works more and more, and this is something that I am, as part of my mastery, trying which I am finding difficult. I'm going to put my hands up and say that it's always harder when it's yourself and it's your personal life, in your personal face and in your personal space. Trying to do the same in my own personal home circumstances and personal life, apply the same there, that it is not separate, but that we bring that into all aspects of our life, kind of 24/7. So if you are what you perceive up against it and struggling in some kind of capacity on one or two fronts or on all fronts, try and adopt a slightly different approach and a different mindset. Try, if going to war head on like antlers, deers with antlers isn't working, try to approach it in a completely different way and say, okay, all that's doing is getting me het up, more tense, and the more I'm pushing against it, the more it's pushing against me. In order to take that momentum or that charge out, just almost, it's like a tug of war. If you've got a tug of war going, one's pulling one way, one's pulling the other, and if you let go, the person falls flat on their face. It's the same thing. Rather than this tug of war, it's just letting go mentally of it, emotionally of it. Try and come back into that neutral space of the heart. Try to cope with or channel through, let go of the emotional charge of it, and just say, okay, let's try to come to a space of, if you can get as near to a space of peace on it, that's great as possible. But also try, I know it might be hard depending on what the circumstances are, but almost try to come from a space of not warlike on it, almost like a space of love on it. And I know in some of the circumstances you are in, that's very hard for you to do that. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. It's a balancing act between doing that and spiritually bypassing. In circumstances in the life and world, just sitting exuding love 24/7 isn't always going to be enough and be able to cut it. Sometimes there do have to be physical words spoken and actions undertaken and things done, as well as that. But lining your ducks up in a row energy wise first is a huge part of the equation, and then taking any necessary steps you have to take after that, and see how it goes from there. Anyway, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. If you are one of my patrons watching, I'm sorry I haven't been with you in the last few weeks. If I'm not on Patreon on a regular basis, there's a good reason for it. I have had to be contending with a monumental amount of stuff here, not just work-wise, not home-wise. I've had to be, let's say, defending my corner from what's been going on in around my home. But also I haven't been very well, so I've had to keep juggling and balancing everything. I don't want it to get to a stage where I have to just say, right, I'm taking months out. If I don't turn this around soon, it's going to come to that, and I don't want it to come to that, but it may well. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. If it's going to take that for me to get well, then it does. But I'm trying to, let's say, avoid that at the moment and see if I can, just juggle things a little bit to make it easier. So the same with you, never has it been more important for us to listen to this and listen to our bodies and listen to what our energy is saying, because in the times that we're moving into now, we need that energy more than we've ever needed it before, because the times that we're stepping into now are changing rapidly, and we are only at the very beginning of it. So on a scale of 1 to 20, we're just at step number 1. There's 19 more to come yet. So we're going to need all the energy we can get, which is why it's important to listen now. On that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. Look after yourselves, take care of yourselves. Check out my new website, raisingreality.com, and my email is lindy@raisingreality.com. Loads of love to you. Look after yourselves, guys. See you soon. Bye.